morning, everyone. Hello. Thank you for having me here today. Valerie Engel was kind enough to invite us from Brussels. My name is Lea Perekrest, and I'm the Deputy Director of Human Rights Without Frontiers. We are an NGO working in Brussels. We work mainly with freedom of religion or belief. We've been at the forefront of the issue on the European level for a little over a decade now. We work mainly in countries where freedom of religion or belief is being violated by the state itself, and we work on a legal basis. So how we report these issues, we keep a database of the news happening around the globe, and this concerns all religious groups. We are not aligned with any one group. We also have a prisoners database. That is, people who are in prison around the globe for their religious or belief group or individual beliefs. So we maintain that database daily. Currently, we have a little over 2,000 prisoners documented. We have their names, we have their court rulings, their charges, where they're being held, etc. And as well, complementing this, we have an annual report where we go country by country and religious group by religious group, documenting their general status around the world and violations of freedom of religion or belief related to them. You can find all of those on our website, hrwf.eu. So now I'll move on to what I'm here to present today. Which has to do with violations of freedom of religion or belief within Europe in modern times. I'm going to be discussing both actual violations as well as where we see some risks or some open space for violations and discrimination to rise. So in the European Union, fundamental rights that fall under freedom of religion or belief are largely respected by governments. These rights that fall under this are things such as the freedom to have, not to have, or to change religion or belief, freedom of association, freedom of worship and assembly, freedom to share one's religion or beliefs, and the right to object military service. So by international law, regardless of your religion or belief group, its members are guaranteed these rights. So keeping this in mind, when we look at some of the domestic policies and state restrictions and tensions that we see within society in Europe, discriminations exist regardless of the status of this law. So today I'm going to discuss some of these breaches in two sections. The first being a form of institutional discrimination that we see that is linked to states within Europe that have systems of hierarchies for religions. And the second is when we have new laws arise within states that pertain to religion and therefore create a space for tension to arise. So to begin with hierarchies. So in the EU, a lot of states have two-tiered or multi-tiered systems of registration for state recognition of religious or belief communities. So these lead to hierarchical categorization, which generates institutionalized and undisputed discrimination. There have been hierarchies in a number of countries, including Austria, Belgium, Bulgaria, Croatia, Denmark, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Italy, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Slovakia, Spain, and a few others. So today, to illustrate this to you, because it is a little bit of an abstract concept to hold, I'm going to discuss the case of Austria. They are by no means the worst. They're just, I think, a very easy case study to understand. So Austrian law stipulates that registered religious groups are to be categorized into three officially recognized legal categories. Those are religious societies, religious confessional communities, and associations. So each of these different categories holds different requirements and different benefits as well. You also have the choice to not register, And the Austrian law enables for any group or individual to practice their religion as long as their practices are not unlawful or do not offend common decency, which is a ruling that Austrian authorities and judges have to make. So in Austria, there are officially 16 recognized religious societies. That's the upper category in this hierarchical structure that we see. So to be granted as a religious society, it comes with many benefits, including tax relief, the right to require mandatory church contributions from your members, to bring religious workers and leaders into the country, either as missionaries or ministers or teachers, and the granting of a status which we call public cooperation status. This means that these groups and members are able to participate in public or partially public activities, such as government-funded religious instruction in schools, or the freedom to regulate the internal affairs of the group. So one step down from these societies is religious confessional communities. So as of September 2017, this month, there are 8 such groups registered as confessional communities in Austria. So this group does not have all of the benefits as the aforementioned group, religious societies. And to register, they also have a series of requirements that they must meet, including that they must have at least 300 members who have residence in Austria. They must have been in existence for at least 20 years, and 10 of those years they must have been registered with the state. And the group has to put forth an explanation of their content and their practices, and they must outline any intent to disseminate their beliefs or literature, etc. So then the third legally recognized category is legal associations. Religious and belief groups that do not qualify as either a society or a confessional community may apply to become a legal association. This grouping includes a wide range of civil groups, NGOs, for example, and any group of 2 or more people engaging in a nonprofit activity can qualify as this. So these religious groups that cannot qualify as the other end up as associations where their rights are that they can own real estate and they can contract for goods and services. One such group is the Church of Scientology or the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So this happens with a lot of smaller groups, with a lot of newer movements because of the 20-year and 10-year requirement to be a religious or confessional community. So the impact of this system. We have seen increasingly that this can open a space for discrimination of specific groups. In Austria last year, there was a new law regarding the Islamic institutions. So this law banned foreign funding for any Islamic institution or Muslim group. And it requires that these groups take a positive stance towards the state and society. Those are the words that they use there. So it is true that in these complex times, I mean, the crux of religion and security is something that is urgent and very complex to deal with, and it needs to be dealt with as we diversify in Europe. However, there's also many criticisms when you come to a law like this, where Islamic institutions are being banned of foreign funding, and that's regardless of whether they have extremist ties or not. This is across the board, and then also other registered religious societies do not have to abide by this law. This is specifically for Islamic groups. So this law also stipulates that imams must speak German, and that Muslim clergy is required to complete a program at the University of Vienna to prove their professional suitability. Thank you. So yeah, anyways, whenever you have a law like this and you have the hierarchy that enables you to separate religious groups or belief systems and then apply a law to them, open space for discrimination. As we know, if a state discriminates against a specific group, it's more likely to also perpetuate in society around as you alienate that group. So this is just one example, as I said. I have many more, and if you would like them, please come to me after, and I can distribute copies of my presentation. So in respect to time, I will move on to the second shorter piece. It'll be very brief, I promise. And that has to do with moments in the past 2 years where states have made rulings on religions or religious beliefs and practices within Europe. I'll only list a few. For example, and I'm not taking a side on any of these, I'd like to make that clear. I'm stating these are moments when the state and religion have come into play in the courtroom. So in October 2016, the mayor of Molenbeek in Brussels closed the Lochman Mosque, which had been under surveillance by the Belgian intelligence service because it had been visited by several terrorists involved in the Paris attacks. Again, that same month, for the first time, a hate preacher who went by the name Imam Shak Lalami was expelled from Belgium. In Bulgaria, in June 2016, 5 Jehovah's Witnesses were fined for distributing literature. And over the past few years, 44 municipalities in Bulgaria have amended ordinances to restrict religious activities. In June 2017, Denmark revoked a centuries-old blasphemy law when a Danish man filmed himself burning the Quran. In May 2017, Denmark banned 5 Islamic clerics and 1 American evangelical Christian pastor from entering the country, calling them hate preachers who posed threats to public order. And there are many other examples that I have, but I will close my presentation now. Again, if you're interested in a copy or if you're interested in any of the work that Human Rights Without Frontiers conduct, please come talk to me after. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lea. I got a lot of new information from you, for example.